the need of American politicians to support Israel and show how much they love Israel, not to mention send weapons and money to Israel. That's the pathology. There's a pathology here in America. There's something just, very, very fundamentally flawed here, where there's a sense that they have to go to Israel and they have to bow down and kiss Netanyahu's ring like he was the Pope or something. And it's very troubling because first of all, it starts at a very low. It starts, when people run for school board. It starts at the school board level and city council and mayor and, of course, chiefs of police and so on. And we, as the voters, we are the ones that need to stand up. We, as the consumers of media, when Bill Maher interviews Netanyahu and doesn't even begin to challenge him, and gives him a platform and treats him like it was disgusting. Or Jordan Peterson, or all these other, celebrity, show hosts. They interview this guy like he was Jesus Christ or something. They don't challenge him on anything, and it's I think it's our responsibility as voters, as consumers, to stand up and say, excuse me, if you identify as a Zionist, you're going to lose your job, because Zionism is a racist ideology. And we should show no tolerance to any type of racism, not to anti-Semitism, not to white supremacy, and not to Zionism, because they all belong in the same column. But it's up to us to say it. Otherwise, I don't think these politicians or these celebrity show hosts will ever get the message.
We're speaking with Miko Peled, who is the author of The General's Son, who's obviously a very outspoken activist who is from Israel. Obviously for the betterment of the Palestinian people. One of the things that I don't think gets talked about enough, but I think is very noticeable and has been, as you alluded to with your general reaction that is very similar to most when it comes to, speaking of Debbie Wasserman Schultz, Jen happened to have run for Congress against Debbie in 2020. And what I discovered over the course of that time is that I do believe that a lot of anti-Semitism is stoked by people like Debbie with this sort of benevolence of Israel can do no wrong. The Jewish people are the chosen people, therefore superior to everyone else. I mean, just the fact that former President Harry Truman, who was as anti-Semitic as anybody who's ever been in the White House, was part of the entire creation of the state of Israel. People really, I think, are very misguided about what it actually means, what it represents, and where a lot of the sort of stoking of the anti-Semitic fervor ends up coming from. Do you see it that way as well?
Yeah, I mean, first of all, I think it's important to understand that conflating anti-Semitism with anti-Zionism or Judaism with Zionism is the key issue here. And the Zionists have been very successful in pushing this agenda forward. It was the agenda for Zionists, going back, at least about a century, making sure that they conflate Zionism with Judaism, and you couldn't be more wrong. Jews have nothing to do with Zionism. Zionism is a secular, racist, colonialist, ideology. It's a terrible thing. It has nothing to do with Judaism. And if we're talking about Judaism as a religion, it is the biggest. It is the biggest contradiction to Jewish values, because Jewish law prohibits Jews from sovereignty in the Holy Land, but nobody talks about that. And so it's important. And what happens is, I mean, the latest example is RFK Jr. People accuse him of anti-Semitism. He goes out and he sits with the most rabid, racist, the Zionist figure that's out there, to say, I love Israel more than you do. Well, loving Israel is not an indication that you're not anti-Semitic, because Israel has great relations with Viktor Orban and other racist anti-Semitic leaders that are out there around the world. So that is not the indication. Supporting Israel is supporting racism. It's not supporting Jews. If you care about Jews, if you care about anti-Semitism, then what's needed is to pushing forward an agenda that promotes tolerance, that promotes anti-racism in a very activist way. That's how you fight anti-Semitism. You don't fight anti-Semitism by supporting Israel. Israel has got nothing to do with anti-Semitism. And I think you were alluding to this earlier. A lot of this Israel can do no wrong, rhetoric. Is promoting, to a certain degree, is helping the anti-Semitic claims that Jews control this and Jews control that and Jews control this. And while Zionists are Jewish, it's important to make a very clear distinction here. Judaism is a religion. It has nothing to do with nationality. It has nothing to do with a nation. It has nothing to do with a country. It is a religion. That's why you have Jews who are from Yemen and Jews who are from Africa and Jews who are from Poland. It is a religion. The Zionists created an ideology that falsely claims that Jews are a people, like a regular people, a regular nation, and that Palestine is their country, and that, oh, by the way, their history book is the Bible, which is not a history book. It's a book of faith. It's a religious document. It is not a book of history. And this was very successful. I mean, look around you when people tell you that, you know, the Bible is a history book and that there was Moses and Abraham and David and all this. Of course, there's no historical, there's no history to any of these stories, any of these figures. But that's what they were very successful in doing. And that's why people say, well, if you don't support Israel, you must be anti-Semitic. And again, like I said, RFK Jr. is the latest madness example where he sat with this grotesque figure, Shmuel Boteach, to show, and he was spewing all this nonsense. Somebody must have given him a card that he's, you know, quickly kind of memorized, because he was doing it very poorly, and this spewing all this nonsense that was so easily refuted. But it's important to make this distinction over and over again so people understand Judaism is a religion. It's a faith. It has nothing to do with Israel. Israel is a product of a racist settler colonial ideology that is violent and, you know, needs to be put to an end, just like apartheid in South Africa and other racist regimes that had to be put to an end.
Yeah, agreed. It's constant for me that I'm distinguishing. And what I say is, I'm like, Judaism's been around a whole hell of a lot longer than Zionism, and it'll be around after. So hopefully, you know, we'll get to that. But it's very frustrating for me because I know where their fear comes from, because it was ingrained from this post-Holocaust mentality from like my grandparents, like, okay, if there's no Israel, there's no safe place for the Jews to go. And obviously that's what they were supposed to believe. Like that was the whole plan, is that you're supposed to believe that's the only safe place for Jews. But the reality is that we're safe in lots of places. I'm good here. I'm in South Florida. I mean, I'm going to be flooded in another 20 years, but like, you know.
That's not be Jewish.
Right, but it's not to be Jewish. But what bothers me the most when I see it from a political standpoint, when I look at people in Congress, and there were only 9 people in our House of Representatives, 9 out of 435, that were willing to not sign a blood oath stating that Israel is my BFF forever and is not a racist state, love and kisses. And out of all 9 of them, nary a Jew. And this bothers me to no end, because there are plenty of Jews in Congress. Not all of them as blatant and grotesque as my congresswoman necessarily, but there's a lot of them. And yet, where are they? Yeah. Not a single Jewish person in Congress actually knows what's going on. This is where I say they're lying. They're either being willfully ignorant or they're lying because they know what we know now. How could I know and they not know? So they know.
Yeah, of course they know. You know, I sat once with Andy Levin when he was in Congress, and we talked about Betty McCollum's bill that's supposed to protect Palestinian children from torture and interrogation and detention by Israel. And he said to me, sat there right in front of my face, and he said, no Jewish member of Congress will ever sign this bill, will ever support this bill. And I said, why not? He said, well, because it's anti-Israel. So, I mean, there's this, and even Betty McCollum, bless her heart, you know, this bill is an important bill. Even she, I was at an event here with her in DC recently. She talked about the bill, which is an important bill. And she said, but Israel is a democracy and Israel is a democracy. I'm going, if Israel is a democracy, we wouldn't need your bill. Democracy does not detain and torture children. Why do we need your bill if Israel is a democracy, for crying? No, it's like they say these things and nobody puts 2 and 2 together. Or they put 2 and 2 and they come up with 6. It's really crazy. And I'm glad you brought up the Holocaust and this thing. Because first of all, people don't realize this, but first of all, Zionism began long before the Holocaust. And the vast majority of Holocaust survivors did not go to Israel. Only a small fraction of Holocaust survivors actually went. And many of those who went couldn't stand the racism. Not just the racism against Palestinians, the racism against them. The way Zionists look at Holocaust survivors as losers and as, you know, sheep to the slaughter and all this, and they left because they couldn't take it. So that tells us anyway, the Jews knew very well where to go and they wanted to be safe. They either went back to Europe and helped with the push for, you know, tolerance and anti-racism, or they came to America or other places where they felt safe. And I was at an event in a suburb here, just a suburb of DC. It was a Palestine-Israel event, and at the end of one of the speakers was a Palestinian, Tahir Zala from LA, well, he lives here now. But anyway, he this older Jewish gentleman who obviously lives here and is wealthy and does well, and very safe, very clearly very safe and successful, said to Tahir, well, what do you think? Don't you think we also deserve a safe place, a place that we can call a safe haven? And I'm thinking, you're living in a safe haven. You're in a suburb of Washington, D.C. You and your children are successful. What are you talking about? But Tahir just said, listen, I've got 4 words for you. Not at my expense.
Thanks for watching. If you want to support our mission to transform politics into service, please like this video, subscribe, follow us on social media, and consider joining our Patreon, where you'll get early access to our interviews as well as other exclusive content. Links are in the description. Peace out.